He showed you the video of my
On the racetrack.
actually not here.
Who's that?
The guy who had the cooking oil generator. Have you
Hey
seen-
Ross, how you going?
have you seen the YouTube?
Hey guys.
Hey, Gary. All right, so sorry sorry, we're a bit late getting started. Usual deal. Ant sends his apologies because he had an ill chicken to contend with. So urgent rush to get home.
That's better. That's what he did on one line, but what he did on the rest.
All right, well, thanks for joining us.
So that's what Roger said at meeting minutes, which we'll go through in a moment.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. So thanks to everyone. Just a reminder that we are actually recording. I'm not sure who hit record, but that's fine. Just mind your language. Anything I'll add. So Ant sends his apologies. He was going to chair the meeting, but got a phone call saying one of our chickens is very ill, and the kids absolutely needed to have Dad home. So Ant sends his apologies. Welcome to the first WA branch meeting for the year. We're certainly going to be pretty busy this year. There's a lot going on. So might just start with any new faces, if we have any new faces in the crowd. Do we have any near new faces out there in Zoom land? Yeah. Alex, do you want to chime in and introduce yourself?
Yeah, g'day guys and girls. I can't quite see everyone in the crowd. Yeah, look, welcome back after last year. But yeah, obviously, yeah, good to be back. Come to a few meetings last year with Gary, my BDM. So and obviously, yeah, it's been an exciting time in the industry the last few months, and I finally received my Volvo XC40 I've been waiting on for the last year and a bit. So been a happy week.
Nice. You had a chance to go do much driving in it?
Yeah, look, I managed to just about run it up to empty today. So about nearly 300 odd k's today. So yeah, a bit of driving. So 1,000 k's in the last week. So yeah, giving it a good run. Well,
one of the big frustrations, it's not a problem at all, is that the Volvo XC looks just like any other car on the road. So you actually got to do a triple take to work out that it's an EV.
Yeah, I've had the fun at the lights a few times with a few guys. It's been quite good so far. So.
Awesome. Okay, well, we do actually have a new face down the back.
Yeah.
Are you going on, Sarah?
Fellow traveller.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And I drive recently drove Sydney and back in January. We've done.
So we always stalked you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So sorry. You drove the BYD across to
Sydney and back.
Sydney and back.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like 13 days. Yeah, good trip. I think 24 charge stops on the way there and a few less on the way back. We had the nice cheap, well, nice free NRMA one, the property travel out was a lot easier.
Cool. We might have some questions about you. That's the case. Hey. So I can just steer this thing. You can see the camera up there. Yep. Cool. Awesome. Okay, well, I'll just add Brian to the group. So I think that's all the new faces that we've got. Some old faces and faces we haven't seen for a while. So yeah, it's going to be a big year for EV stuff. Probably I might, in place of Ant giving a chair's report, to give one on his behalf. So the last time we all saw each other in person was probably the barbecue at Unique EVs. So that was a really good turnout. I think we had about 50 or 60 people over the course of the day coming and checking out some of the conversions that were going on at the workshop. Several of us drove our converted vehicles there, which was good fun. I really hope those guys get plenty of business. There's certainly plenty of interest in doing conversions of utes and vans or light trucks or things that aren't currently offered as a production EV. That's where conversions make a lot of sense at the moment. So that's really good.
Vintage.
And vintage stuff, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in the intervening times, so Fully Charged Live is a big event that's happening in Sydney on the 11th and 12th of March. I'm flying over there on the Friday night, coming back on the Sunday night, and then going straight to lecture at TAFE again for 12 hours the next day. So that's going to be a bit garbage, but it should be a fun event. So obviously that's happening on the same weekend that we would normally run Electrikhana. So what we've proposed is that we push Electrikhana back into April, and taking Electrikhana regional was a smashing success. So we went to Albany this time last year, really popular despite the weather. We've got photos up of it remaining sideways situation for Albany. But we've got the opportunity to take Electrikhana regional to Geraldton this year. Primarily because the first Synergy WA EV network charges are going to be online very soon. In fact, they're just waiting on a few technical matters before they can switch it on. Sandra will be joining us closer to 8 tonight. She's got some kids to put to bed before she can join us. So we're going to keep you guys entertained for the best part of an hour. But she will talk to a presentation on the progress on the charging network, which is good. But if we can host Electrikhana up at Geraldton, that will be a lot of fun too. Obviously, conversions won't be making their way up there. I drove the Prelude to Albany and back, and I'm not doing it again. Geraldton's going to be even harder. So no, I won't do that. But taking it to the regions is really important. I think every time we've taken the trip to Esperance, likewise when we head down to Albany, there's a lot of interest. And the first thing that someone might doubt is, oh, they wouldn't work here. Well, if you turn up there, then they go, well, that's one excuse that I can't use now. But also, if people in regional areas feel comfortable with EVs coming down to visit them, they feel comfortable about embracing them in their own neighbourhood. So I think it's a good move. So
what's the date?
that would be, I have to double check, but it would be not Good Friday, the Friday after. So what's that, the 17th? I'm guessing here. Saturday, whatever the Saturday is, so 16th, 17th of April.
This is school holiday.
It will be school holidays. Yeah.
That's the 15th.
15th, Saturday the 15th.
That's the one after Easter weekend.
Yeah.
So Saturday the 15th for Electrikhana going regional. So that should be good fun.
Saturday the 15th.
And there is a charger at Jurien Bay. There may well be another one in Lancelin. I don't know if that'll be ready in time, but I know that the WA network's going to have one at Lancelin. I just don't know if that's well progressed or not. For those of you who've got EVs and get to Geraldton in one go, then good for you.
Is it 400K or?
It's about,
Buy from that.
yeah, okay. So depends on the wind as well, and Geraldton and wind, oh, does Geraldton get windy? Oh, that.
Probably 400.
Okay, so obviously, who is heading over to Fully Charged Live? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Fully charged.
Yeah, the Robert Llewellyn's show in Sydney, the big travelling show. Should be good. There's going to be some interesting EVs on display there. Obviously, the NRMA a major sponsor of that event, so that they got naming rights.
Yeah.
But it's got quite a good following, so it'll be a big show for Sydney. I've been invited to sit on a panel talking about electric bikes and active transport in general. Bryce, one of our Victorian members, will be talking on a panel as well. So there's quite a few AEVA members from around the country will be contributing to the discussion as well, which is really good. Like I said, I get over there quite late on Friday, so I miss all of the free drinks and welcomes and that kind of stuff. But that's all right. It's the possibility.
I'll have some of those for you. No worries.
Yeah, go for it. That's on the Friday night. So yeah, that should be good fun. And then obviously we'll be busy with Electrikhana, after that. And of course, we've got our expo in November. Now we haven't got our sponsor and exhibitor pack ready yet. It must be about a week away. So Visibel are putting that together for us. We should have at least the major sponsor package ready to go out in about a week's time. And then the more general exhibitor pack going out a week after that. Plenty of advance notice. So I've been telling everyone, giving a few people a heads up, get along, exhibit your wares. And what we're really looking for at this stage is contacts. So Malcolm Reeson very kindly put me in touch with the marketing team at Fortescue Future Industries. They've got a big campaign to electrify their operations. So I'd love to have them both at the expo as exhibitors and potential sponsors for the show as well. We're relying on Ant for our avenues to the RAC, so no pressure. And look, Synergy have told us they're really keen to get involved and help us out as well. So that's good to know. It should be a really good show. We'll get to a few of the details on that later on. So some of you may be aware that there is a High Court challenge happening today and tomorrow in Canberra against the Victorian EV tax. So two of our members, Chris Vanderstock and Kath Walker, over in Melbourne, challenged the Victorian government's road user charge on EVs on the grounds that it's unconstitutional. So the legal case that they're mounting is that the Victorian government doesn't have the authority under our federation to raise revenue for that purpose in that way. Normally, like fuel excise, for example, that is a federally collected tax. Okay. Now the challenge is if Victoria thinks that they're doing it to replace a tax that they themselves don't collect, then why are they collecting it?
That's right.
So what will be really interesting is that so the federal government is supporting the plaintiffs. Every other state and territory is supporting Victoria because they want to do the same thing. There's two outcomes here. Either the court finds in favour of the plaintiffs and the federal government says, okay, we are responsible for road user charging. That then compels them to come up with road costing reforms, something that they didn't want to do, but they will get dragged into it. And I hope that they do get dragged into it. If the case goes in favour of the Victorian government, every other state and territory will feel free to introduce their own road user charge with their own mechanisms, collection strategies and whatever. And we're likely to see 8 completely different schemes pop up around the country. And in the true spirit of federation, whether it's rail gauges or whether it's pint or a schooner or a pot or a midi,
Or pokies.
we're going to have a different scheme. Now, to be fair, the West Australian government and the New South Wales government have said, yeah, we're interested in doing such a thing, but we're not going to do it until 2027. The New South Wales government specifically said when EVs hit 30% of the market, so that means all new vehicles, which will probably happen in about 2 to 3 years' time. It's happening very quick. So a lot sooner than we think. We've still got time. If the Victorian government wins this case, we've still got time to convince the West Australian government that there is a good way to do this and there's a bad way to do this. The Victorian way was clearly the wrong way to do it. It was specific for EVs. It paid no regard to the weight of the vehicle. So a Model X paid just as much road user charge as a
Lightweight.
Sorry?
Lightweight.
Yeah, it's a live wire, absolutely. In fact, all of their support incentive schemes, like $3,000 rebates, applied to electric cars, but not electric motorbikes. And yet, electric motorbikes were subject to the road user charge. So that's a bit rude. Not only that, the plug-in hybrids will pay not only fuel excise when they fill up a tank, they'll also pay
That's also
2.16
ridiculous, yeah.
per kilometre to use for the road user charge. So if you do the right thing and don't buy any fuel, you're still going to be paying your 2.1 cents per kilometre. Probably the most galling part is that a Toyota hybrid Camry, which uses a third of the fuel of a regular petrol-powered Camry, will therefore pay 1/3 of the fuel excise, despite weighing just as much as a Camry or slightly more and doing just as much damage to the roads.
But it's clearly an act from the petrol companies, because it really, if they go ahead, it really will disenfranchise the sales of electric vehicles, see?
Yeah,
And
that's
maybe against the petrol companies, they don't want electric
well,
vehicles.
whether it's the petrol companies or just the Victorian government grabbing cash because that's what they like to do, which is probably more likely the case here.
You have a big impact on the car sales.
Yeah, so I mean, look, the numbers are a bit small at the moment to see if the EV tax is having any substantial impact on EV uptake. Currently, it's still cheaper to buy and drive an EV than pay fuel excise, but by this much. So the case the financial case to buy an EV is significantly reduced. In any case, I've done a few interviews with journalists about this over the last couple of days. The point we've been making is this is not about EV drivers in Victoria having a whinge about needing to pay to use the roads. That's not what it's about. We actually don't have a problem with the concept of a road user charge as long as it's universal and every vehicle that uses the road is subject to it. What this means is reform of how we cost roads. Now, the AEVA since 2015 has had a position of, yep, we don't have a problem with the road user charge, make it universal, multiply it by the mass of the vehicle so that there is a proxy for vehicle size, and don't introduce it until EVs make up some sizable proportion of the fleet. That position is that we actually ran it past a couple of economists, one at the ANU who said this is perfectly sound, this is a reasonable way to do it, and they, with their quick analysis, basically said we can't see any substantial negative impacts of this on several sectors of the community, i.e. low-income earners. So it's a pretty good position. The FCAI actually likes our position. It's pretty unusual that the FCAI likes something that an EV community is in support of. The Australian Automobile Association is in favour of what we've proposed as well. So we can only hope that the court finds in favour of the plaintiffs and the federal government, and we end up with a fairer way of costing roads. Right, so roads are expensive. They take an enormous toll on society and life as well. And they ain't free. Not only do they cost a lot of money, we actually spend an inordinate amount of money on roads, more than we probably should. So an appropriate way to cost. Now, we haven't even got to heavy vehicles yet, because they are the ones that actually do the damage to roads, and they are the reason our roads are as expensive as they are. They currently pay half as much fuel excise as everybody else, right? So if that was increased to the full rate, they would naturally pass that on to the customers, and all of a sudden our goods will get even more expensive to move around. So again, that feeds into the case that the AEVA has been making, is that we should be moving a lot more of our goods by rail wherever possible. And electric trucks will do a perfectly good job of probably 80% of the trips that are done with heavy haulage. So most trucks don't do any more than 400 kilometers a day. And then they're parked up for the night and then they go back to work the next day. So, you know, we don't need to wait for electric heavy vehicles to be able to cross the Nullarbor for that to be a viable business case. So, in any case, that probably leads to the next point, which is the AEVA board met a couple of weeks ago, and we set about drafting a comprehensive policy document. In the past, we've made submissions to government on all manner of stuff when the opportunity pops up. That kind of became our policy positions, was a letter to a government body somewhere. We never actually summarised all of our positions in one place on our website. But we also realised that we didn't actually have a comprehensive mechanism for discussing policy and who it impacts and how successful it may or may not be, and do our members actually support it. So the board resolved to come up with a meeting of branch chairs from around the country, a whole bunch of policy areas around transport and its electrification. And we'll come up with a big list and then eventually put that out in a survey to the membership sometime in the first half of this year. Get people to say, that's good, or not interested in that, or no, I'm vehemently opposed to that. And then we'll get some indication of support. That will kind of help us direct our efforts this year in what will be quite a crucial year for electrification. We don't want to be spending all of our energy advocating for something that's going to be a foregone conclusion, and then not spending enough time campaigning on something that's really important. I think road user charging is going to pop up to be quite an important one, so that's one of several that we'll pursue. Damien?
Does the rebate come into this equation anywhere? Because I keep hearing about this rebate. When I went to collect it, sorry, your vehicle's got to be under 70 grand.
Yep.
And, you know, any vehicle over that, which most of them are out of the equation. So that was a nice little cop out for the government.
Yeah, it's almost like the $3,000 rebate added about $3,000 to the cost of the car. Yeah, which was the inflationary pressure that rebates put on cars is really well known. It's economics 101. But the motivations for that is to not be seen to be handing free money to people who can afford $70,000 cars, which is fair. I think that's a fair position for the government to take. So means testing it would be another way to do it. State governments don't like means testing because that means, again, meddling in federal affairs. They don't want to do that.
That's what don't work if you've got a good accountant.
Exactly. And if you're wealthy, you've probably got a good accountant, you know.
The luxury tax change made a difference though, so yeah.
Yes, that's right. So that will make a difference because a lot of EVs were falling into the luxury car category. And the other one that made a big difference is fringe benefit tax. So that has changed now. So EVs are not subject to fringe benefits taxes, which means businesses. Sorry. Oh. So businesses will be able to buy an EV as part of their fleet, their fleet, part of their operations. And if that person gets to drive that vehicle home, they don't get slugged with the FBT, if that's my understanding of how it works.
We discovered by accident that the exchange rate actually falls into the equation quite nicely. So we actually made the deposit on our vehicle in May of last year and only collected it last weekend. And for some strange anomaly, the deposit went astray and got deposited back into my own bank account. All the time, Mercedes thought that, or we thought the Mercedes had the money. And when I looked into why they were delaying actually setting the final price, was because they couldn't find this $3,000 deposit. So being honest paid off. It turned out the vehicle price dropped from 159,535 to 155, 800, so we picked up about $3,600.
That's your rebate then. Yes, your rebate,
There's your exchange rate from May last year to now.
Yeah. So, and look, the other thing that we raised in our submission to the National Electric Vehicle Strategy call for discussion to the federal government was there really does need to be better cooperation between the states and the feds. So today I was actually at a meeting at Synergy. Ross Durango from the EV Council was in town for another reason. So we thought, well, let's meet up and meet with Synergy, Western Power Horizon and a few other players. We got a bit of feedback on from Sandra about the network, which we'll hear about later tonight. But also Ross confirmed that the federal government's commitment to supporting EV charging infrastructure around the country, so this was the federal government's announcement. We were all wondering, how is that going to be administered? Is that going to be another Commonwealth construction project, or is it going to be administered to the states separately? And Ross said, now he did say, please don't quote me on this. So I'll just put the disclaimer that he wasn't 100% certain of this either. But the federal government is working with the NRMA to install NRMA branded chargers around the country with federal money. Which is very interesting because they'll be, not only will they be potentially overbuilding where there's already a network, that's okay. Redundancy is a good thing. But they may not have enough capacity because the WA network took all of the capacity that was available. Hopefully they're talking to each other. This is the problem. If they don't talk to each other about what kinds of loads you're going to be installing on the grid, so the next person to install a charger is going to be up for another whole transformer. There may not even be enough supply on the HV network. So it did seem a little bit disorganized on the part of the federal government. Sure. To be fair, this isn't their game. They don't want to do this kind of stuff. But what I would be curious to know is, did the NRMA get to this position in a tender process, or did they donate to the ALP? I don't know. I don't want to spread rumors, but it did seem a bit strange that the NRMA will be doing that. They've done a good job in New South Wales, obviously. Ipso facto, they'll do a good job Australia-wide. I don't know. Certainly here in RAC country, they may not be so popular. So that'll be interesting. I think that's pretty much it for the federal news. Yes, they did. They also reduced the import duties on some EVs. I think it only applied to European EVs though, because we already have a free trade agreement with China and Japan. So I don't think it really applied to anything outside of those countries. In charging news, the great news is that Ravensthorpe is up to full power or nearly full power, 44 kilowatts. We found out by accident when someone said, holy shit, I'm getting 44 kilowatts. And we're like, you shouldn't be getting that because we're not sure if luckily you sent through photos and sure enough, whole top fuses have been upgraded. They've got new enclosures and everything. I can only hope that the wiring is at least 10 square millimeters down to the unit. If it's not, we might have a bushfire pretty soon. But the fact that, I mean, Ant drove through there on the way back and charged at 44 kilowatts, and he actually felt the breaker, which is a 63 amp breaker, which is right on the limit, and it wasn't getting hot. So hopefully everything's playing nice, and now we can actually charge at almost full power from Lake Grace through Ravensthorpe and onto Esperance. Sandra will inform us later on about the state of the WA network, but they are also having difficulty with Ravensthorpe. So yes, it's just the town. When it comes to installing, I think they're getting a 75 kilowatt dual head charger, power charger installed there. Hayden not making a lot of progress. Brookton has made progress. But yeah, definitely the first leg to open will be the trip to Northampton and Geraldton. And the next leg will be the Albany Highway and Walpole. So, but Sandra will speak to that later on. So there's that. I don't know of any other urban charges that have been going in recent times.
Yeah, we've obviously got the Guildford charger, which has been pretty useless lately, so we've made the decision to pull it out and replace it with ABV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're replacing it with a 120 kilowatt ABV. But we have to do a green dome upgrade to get the full power out of the unit. So initially, it's only going to be capped at about, I think, 67 kilowatts or something like that. But then as soon as Western Power install the upgraded green dome, then it'll be at full efficiency. And at the same time, we're upgrading our SETEC at Forestville to an ABB 120 kilowatt dual head as well. So there's going to be a couple of reliable solutions, hopefully, in the future. And that's due to be done by the end of the month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Is that the station,
yeah,
Forestville station?
that's right, yes. Yeah,
In the car park?
in the car park. They'll both be on ChargeFox. The chargers arrived to Perth today. Gemtech will do the install in the next couple of weeks and we'll be away to go. So fantastic. Yeah.
That's good. And that's a pretty convenient spot for anyone near the airport.
Yeah, the airport is good and Guildford is great if you're going out to Midland or something like that. So it'll be great to have two reliable chargers again.
Yeah, very good.
Are there many spots on the route to Albany Highway to Denmark?
So Manjimup will be getting one and Walpole will be getting one.
So Albany Highway, so.
Oh, yeah, Williams is getting one. I don't think Kojonup will be getting one yet. But because there's already a 50 kilowatt charger in Kojonup, they do plan on building a big one next to it eventually. But for now, Williams, Albany, Denmark and Kojonup are on that list. But again, I'll let Sandra speak to that when she comes along. She goes, well, I've had the presentation here, but I thought she'll be joining us soon. Yeah. I'm sure there's other stuff, but I've gotten it, so I'll throw to Bruce if you can give us an update on.
I shall do. The treasurer's report, absolutely nothing has happened with their account lately. And the reason is, it's been frozen by Westpac. Because we're a money laundering risk. According to Westpac, so
And that's a half truth.
yeah. Yes. Well,
You're saying you're just not very good at it.
yes. So I have I passed Chris a few minutes ago a set of minutes, which we will add to our minutes for today, basically with the proposal that would reconfirm that I am the nominated account holder and Chris is the secondary nominated account holder, which is what it has been for 5 or 7, 8 years now. Such that Westpac, we can then cite this in our minutes.
Yes.
And they will be happy enough to release the account, and then we can abandon Westpac.
Yeah, should. Yeah, so like most institutions, if it's an organizational account, they just need a record in the minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And passage of the motion to say that will be the authorized.
Yeah, exactly. So that then keeps them happy.
So
And then we should be able to, and that means we'll be able to run things like any expenses we incur in running Electrikhanas and the like. And we have about $8,000 or $9,000 in the account. And I'll actually give an accurate.
as soon as you can open it.
Yeah, well, I can look at it, but I can't do anything with it.
Very good for money laundering, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Some interesting things about money laundering. We've been pursuing an operation for 9 months, and the good news is we found them. And it's, if you Google it, it's Bulgaria, Cyprus, Serbian cryptocurrency takedown. And we've been now called as international witnesses for Europol. And it's a multi-million-dollar operation. And it looks like indirectly we've actually also taken down the $10 billion Chinese money laundering operation in Sydney.
Ah,
Well, I don't think
Yes.
we're there yet.
that's exactly with sufficient ambition.
All right, well, shall we
So
Yes, shall we,
should we show a show of hands on that?
We'll raise the motion. So the
Yeah.
motion is that the AEVA bank account is still locked because Westpac suspects it may be used for money laundering and requires a motion to verify the account and office holders. So we move that the account name is AEVA Perth, that the primary account holder is Bruce Armstrong, who is the treasurer of the branch, and the chairman. Now, I'm not the chair of the WA branch, so the chair should be Ant Day.
Yeah,
So we.
however, you are the other signatory in the account.
That's true. I'm
Yeah.
currently the other
Yeah.
secretary. So,
So for the purposes of Westpac.
and for the purposes of tonight, I'm the chair.
Yes.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
We're all in favor.
All in favour?
Good, good, we'll get that written up. And we'll just have to sign it at some point, the chair signs it.
so you're telling me if I want to do money laundering, I just open a car club account?
Yeah, I think pretty much.
No, you're talking about
Yeah.
Citrons. That's the
Yeah.
two CVs. That's the money draining.
Now, for your money, for your operations, is front loading or top loading?
Okay, so I might quickly talk about what we got going on with the expo. There's Sandra. I'll quickly go with what we've got planned for the expo and the conference, and then I might throw to Attogal to tell us about your trip.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
Right. And then how long do you think you'll take?
I've got two options. I can do either or one or both tonight, 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. And Sandra, how tired are you? Sandra?
Not too tired. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, you're happy to go after Tim?
No worries at all.
Excellent. Okay, okay, so the expo and the conference. So the conference is going to be on the 3rd of November, which is a Friday. It'll be an all-day conference. And the theme for the conference is equity in electrification. How can we ensure that the benefits of electric transport are accessible to all Australians? It'll be things like, what can we do about more affordable EVs? Things like electric motorbikes and scooters, electromobility, electric rail and freight rail. We're looking at things like parallel importation of used EVs from right-hand drive markets and the opportunities for cheaper vehicles that they present. But also things like, how do we cost roads, road user charging, better planning so that we simply don't need to drive as much. We've got some potentially really exciting speakers lined up, some urban planners from the USA, Canada, and France. We've already secured $5,000 from business events to fund or support someone coming over to speak. So that should be really good. We'll be putting a call for abstracts out sometime in March. And we want that to go far and wide, not just to scholars and academics, but anyone who's been sort of working in the field of electric transport. Obviously, we have invited the Premier to open the event, and his office has said they're quite happy to ask. They think that it's the kind of thing that he's likely to do. Failing that, we can always get Basil to open it. He'll open an envelope.
Where is it? Where is it?
At the Perth Convention Centre.
As long as it's getting so you're right.
Yes. Then, because it's our 50th anniversary this year, AEVA turns 50 this year. So we are also going to have, oh, Paul, I see a thumbs down. No, it's gone now. So it's our 50th, so that we're going to have a birthday party, better known as a dinner on Friday night. It'll be up at Fraser's in Kings Park. This is the gala dinner. So we basically want anyone who was at the conference, dignitaries, speakers to come along. Obviously, AEVA members will get discounted access because it will be quite an expensive dinner. It's Fraser's, come on, it's going to be like $150.
It's gonna be McDonald's, is it?
Yeah, so, we'll obviously be offering packages with conference attendance as well. So that's all going to be sorted out in the next couple of months. And then on the Saturday and the Sunday is the expo, which will be in one of the main halls at the conference, at the convention centre. There's going to be themed sections of the expo. So obviously we're going to have a huge section there for conversions. We really want to see as many conversions as we can get. We can get 20 conversions in the hall. That'll be awesome. I think we can do that. We're going to have Lithium Valley. So we're going to be encouraging the likes of Alchem and Rio and anyone who's in the battery minerals extraction industry to set up a display at the expo. We're also going to have the Future Battery Industry CRC getting along there. Like an innovation station, so anyone who's designing some pretty neat electric transport options, so obviously the electric airplanes and hydrofoils, boats and that kind of stuff, electric motorbikes. E-bikes are going to be huge, e-bikes and scooters.
Good.
So that's going to be a big
Should be ready by then.
well. Sorry?
Ours should be ready by then.
Look forward to seeing it. We're going to have, we're also going to encourage education institutions, particularly TAPE, not least because I work there and I can pester the right people, but training and vocation in the world of EVs is going to be a major point of well, it needs work. Basically, we need to do a lot more of it. It needs
Stimulation.
Yeah, and we're going to need to make it clear to the next generation of mechanics that electric vehicles are here
The
and you're going to
future.
have to learn how to work on it. So we're keen to get them. Thanks for that, Roy. So the Meriden show is definitely on this time. Yep. Okay. Excellent. Get along with that, April 1st. Yeah, so the expo is Saturday and Sunday. We will be, like I said, we'll be putting a call for sponsors and exhibitors out in the next month. Let's say probably in the next 2 weeks for our sponsor package and exhibitors after that. We're also keen to get the likes of RAC, Fortescue Future Industries, and Synergy, of course, to help us out and promote the event. The exciting thing is that the electric highway should be nearly complete by then. So unfortunately, the leg to UCLA won't be finished. We got that confirmation from Horizon. They said, but you'll probably be able to do it the long way around. Well, and then the Fitzroy River flooded and knocked the bridge out. So we'll see how that's going around about November. So we're definitely looking forward to inviting as many EV drivers from around the country to travel over for it. So that's the expo. We will be putting together an organising committee, like an on-the-ground organising committee. If you've got a willingness and a skill set to offer, you're most welcome to join us. But from a national perspective, it's primarily Michael Day, our treasurer, myself, Vicky Cotter from Visibel, who's our event manager, and John Harris, who's our MC. So yeah, we'll be very much looking forward to getting that up and running. Any questions about the expo or conference out there?
Can you confirm the dates again?
The expo is on the 3rd of November. So the conference is on the 3rd of November. The expo is on the 4th and 5th of November. So, there. Okay, well, I'll throw out. Oh, no, tell us about your big road trip.
You don't have to come up there, it's probably more logical than spinning a camera. I already did it.
Well, the acoustics in this room are remarkably good, so
Oh, I can hide behind the desk then.
yes.
Okay. I don't like being on the spot, put on the spot, and sort of having planned to speak tonight. That's all right, nice to be invited. Has anyone done the cross Nullarbor? Yeah.
In
3/4 way.
an EV.
In an EV.
No.
Has anyone done it in an ice cup?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know the journey. It's an interesting journey. It's a great journey.
Oh, yeah.
Really enjoyed it. I never had. It was somewhere that I'd wanted to go for a long time. I grew up in Perth, so being able to sort of drive the hills and keep going was one of the things I've always wanted to do. So I picked up my car, my Atto, on the 10th of December.
Wow.
And then Christmas time, went down to Bremer Bay. So my first long journey in my car. Charged at Poaching and then in Bremer Bay, and then the same on the way back. So I got a few bits of data about the range and what it could do and what it couldn't do and how comfortable it was and whether it was going to be a viable option for me. And then made the decision to go. My son was singing in Sydney on the 20th of January. It was Friday evening and then the Saturday evening. So I decided, yep, I'd go rather than fly to go and see him in his performance. I would drive my new car over there and see how it went. So didn't have a lot of turnaround time to plan, but had some really great advice from the guys at TREX, obviously, and other people that have done the journey. We can wait now because I probably forget people. But great advice, huge amount of wisdom from them, and gratefully the loan of the DC converter, because the Atto 3 can only charge at 7 kilowatts on an AC, which obviously would make my journey fairly onerous and take too long given the time frame that I had to work with. I wanted to do it in 2 weeks. So with the loan of the DC, it meant that anywhere I had a 3-phase power point, I could hopefully charge up to about 21 kilowatts. And so that's what I did at most of the places that I went through. There was obviously commercial, I don't know the terminology, but commercial charges all the way down to the Ravensthorpe one you were just talking about. I got a bit less than you did there, than you would now there. I think.
Yes, I think you were there the day before.
Yeah, I think so, 2 days or something. 21 there, and then got to Esperance and was only on the motel charger there. I think it's just a Tesla one, 3 kilowatts, something pretty low, but overnight stop there, and then from there all the way across to Berry, I think in New South Wales, was only 3-phase, and of those I had to use the DC for most of them, apart from there was one in Madura, Oasis Motel Madura. They've got a CTEC, I think it's called. They're the 20 kilowatt one there, and the Kaguna biofuel one. That's great. And apart from that, it was DC all the way. Big challenge, big pinch point was at Port Augusta, where at the moment the only access to public charging they have is at the, or non-Tesla, I should say, non-Tesla public charging is at the 2 motels, one of which they both got 2 sites. One motel was completely down and the other one only had one of its 2 destination charges working. So that night I was only able to get 3 kilowatts and had it overnight in place. I had planned overnight. So very kindly on the way back, I contacted the Port Augusta Council, because I had heard rumours on the grapevine that in Port Augusta there was a publicly available 3-phase power socket. Actually in the public, I don't know if you know that area, but no, not the foreshore, it's I can't remember the name of the, like a big public open space in the centre of the town, in the city there, and next to public, literally attached to public toilet block is a 3-phase socket. So
Next to the water.
Yeah.
Next to the water.
next to no water, it was site, but so parked up next to the toilet block. They were very kind, allowed me up onto the path and charge there for 2 hours or so. Maybe signed a disclaimer, which is fair enough. I don't really know what I signed my life away to, but I was grateful for the charge. Yeah, it was reasonably uneventful. We had a challenge in Caledonia, where the UWA tech, I think it is, or charges the 20 kilowatt one there. On the way over was working fine on my vehicle, although it did take a couple of handshakes to try and get it to register. But on the way back, Shane and I tag teamed from Butchera in South Australia and went down to the bottom of South Australia to visit family, and we met up again on the way back, my way back across from Sydney. So Shane's Model 3 charged fine, but then when we switched it over to my car, that was a bit of a challenge. It wouldn't read it at all. So bit of a moment, and then ended up having to unplug that charger and then use their 3-phase plug into the boot DC that I had taken with me. It was all good. And then I had a puncture 11k out of Southern Cross, and like most of the Teslas, I'm assuming most of them don't have an actual spare, and made the decision before I went not to buy one. they do take a puncture repair kit and and a compressor. So boosted up the air in the tire and got to Southern Cross where we were tag teaming anyway and had to charge for 2.5 hours there. So whilst that was charging, we get the tire off and get the puncture repaired with the puncture repair kit. I had a really large which had some PowerPoints here, but had a really large metal object in there. We think it was the twisty top from an really old tin of sardines, you know, so it wasn't just a nail. So it took two of the bodgy, whatever they're called, the puncture kit repair things to get that full, because after the first one it was still leaking, so put another one in. But yeah, overall reasonably uneventful. I slept in motels and didn't car it like some of the more adventurous people did.
I get that.
I sleep peacefully in a bed. But yeah, the positive, well, there were loads of positive, the feedback from community and the people at the towns that I was visiting, either the businesses themselves or look, there's a few private businesses that have three-phase, Claymore Winery, Milton's Tyres in Kimber in South Australia, that were really positive. And, you know, but for them offering that service to have their three-phase available to drivers at the moment, we'd be stuck, we'd be unstuck. You know, taking days and days longer than it otherwise would, or you know, just not able to do the journey at all. So I'm really grateful that they offer that support to EV drivers at the moment, and it'll be fantastic once we get that opportunity to have commercial chargers available. Obviously, that would be, you know, just open up a whole new avenue of travel for everybody. Sure.
Is that information readily available?
Of where they're going.
Where the three-phase
Yeah, so none of those, apart from the Port Augusta one, all of the ones that I use were on Plugshare and available. Yeah, so when I mapped out the route, it just came down to where did I want to go, how long did I want it to take me, and then what was available along the way. And given that the Atto 3 was a new vehicle, there was no data available on what range I'd get, and sort of the climate you can't control for that.
Which charges work reliably?
That's exactly it. Yeah, you sort of had to have a plan up your sleeve.
Two questions. How long did it take you to plan the trip? And have you got an idea of the total cost of the fuel you paid?
Sure. Well, we took a whole weekend between us to plan exactly where I was planning to charge along the way. That was based on information that was gathered over the preceding couple of weeks with various people that had done that sort of journey before and gathering their knowledge. And I do have my stat compiled them last weekend. I don't know if anybody's, someone said they saw the Facebook page, and I'm about to put a post, but I just haven't had a chance yet. But I did do the stats. So it was overall kilometres was 8,221. And the charge cost was $448.
Wow.
So purchase the new tank.
Wow.
And of course, a lot of that, you know, I've mentioned to a couple of people, and that's not actually the power cost, because a lot of these places, rightfully so, charge a flat fee. So if I go to, for example, $50 flat fee,
All right.
pardon?
$37.
$37 flat fee from the council. And realistically, we all know that we're not using that much dollar value worth of power, but it's just the way it is.
But the staffing of remote roadhouse is a massive headache for them,
Yeah.
so yeah.
And it does take time for them, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
But for them being there, we'll be able to do it. Yeah, so grateful for that. But
Just-
it does illustrate that it would be considerably less expensive if you weren't paying those rates. But then also some of the commercial charges are going to charge a higher rate per kilowatt, so it might even out.
Just as a comparison, I did Sydney with a dedicated Ford Falcon LPG car, and it took us 6 weeks of preparing, and we still didn't got anywhere to make sure if we could make it to Sydney, because nobody had the information where the actual LPG station. And I think, yeah, we made it. And I think at the end of the day, I think we burned about $1,500 of LPG. So there you go. And it's a BYD you have, is it? The 6, is that the 6 like here? All right, yeah.
Tires. Did you change the tires to?
No, it was stock. The whole thing was stock. Yeah. So the only difference was obviously having the DC converter, but everything else I didn't do anything differently.
Okay, yeah. I'm talking about the tires for the car.
They're that.
The what the endless tires?
But they're that.
Yeah.
They're not the run flat ones.
I don't think so, yeah.
Road tires.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the job.
Yep.
But I think next time, if you do a trip like that, you have to do really a spare tire because I had a brand new Prado and we drove 17,000 kilometers in 9 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, I did a trip with the old 2 CVs to go up to Lake Argyle. And we were in the desert and none of these cars had a problem. I had 4 flats in a row. For every day, 4 flats. And then on the way back to Kalgoorlie to have the tires replaced, I had a shredded tire. So I had a spare tire, but if you shred your tire, then you're stuck. And so I've learned that so a puncture is fine.
Yeah.
But if you got, and we know now why it shredded itself, because it was losing air and you don't notice it. So if you
One of
lose
the
air.
luxuries, I guess, of having the more modern cars is it does have the warning.
Oh, the warning,
straight away.
yeah.
So as soon as
Yeah.
that thing
It's
does
got the
happen,
tire pressure monitor. Yeah, that's good then.
it's
because-
great.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife's car said stop. It says actually stop. Yeah.
Right, are there any questions out there in Zoom land?
They're all quiet, they're all zombies. Zombies in the Zoom.
I'll just throw in that on the way back, when we were traveling together at least, the charge stations at Putra, Penong, and there was a couple of others as well. They knew about the expo coming up in November.
And I have already mentally planning ahead for having accommodation and.
And those, actually, there was 3 places, Putra, Penong, and Kura Retreat, were all very interested in potentially getting hold of a Delta Charger or something like that. Now, I know that obviously Putra and Penong are in South Australia, but the network in South Australia, we think ours is bad, there's atrocious.
So I will add to that, John Edwards has very kindly offered, we obviously AEVA sponsored his campaign to drive over to Sydney as part of the marathon. He's happy to return the favour by organising deployment of chargers in some really key spots ahead of the expo. So that's really neat. And yeah, if we can keep in touch with some of these, especially places that like to have a bunch of people staying at them, like I think the
Penong Caravan Park would be.
Southern place as well.
Kura Retreat.
Yeah, the bonfire, drinks, bar, whatever, like they're up for that.
Big place.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
telling me. Excellent. Well, I'll quickly now throw to, who's going to tell us all about. Oh, a hand up. Oh, that's right. I'm learning what is my department. Hey.
Yeah, so I've got 2 little presentations. One I wanted to tell you guys about the E6. So this is something I purchased late last year. I've had for a little bit to play with. It's not a well-known one. BYD is obviously more well-known recently for the Atto 3. And they did sell a handful of E6 Generation 2 and T3 vans in the last year, but that doesn't seem to be on offer anymore. But the E6, I was going to say there's also the Seal Dolphin, Sea Lion and Ocean range that they're supposedly bringing out soon.
But we'll be gone.
Yeah. But the E6 is definitely a taxi offering that's predominantly lease arrangement, so not many private owners have them around the world apparently. But there are 7,000 in taxi operation, currently clocked up 400 million kilometers of combined service. Primarily China, but they're also in Singapore and a few others. Similar site to a Prius, which is actually what I swapped it for, our Gen 2 Prius, with now a Gen 1 E6. 80 kilowatt battery, 90 kilowatt motor, doesn't claim 400, but getting 370 fairly regularly. It's only got type 2 AC charging, but it can do 44 kilowatts if you can find the right charger. There's a couple over east, but none that I found yet.
None over here anymore.
No, not that I've seen.
The 3.0 charger still operational.
Yeah, it's possible, but I have yet to,
No, I think I will go and have the research options.
but it did come with the 22 kilowatt home charger, so I've got that.
That's good, right?
So
So is that a 22 kilowatt DC or is it 22 kilowatt onboard AC?
AC nodes at home, wall mount, 22 AC, three phase. So, I can't remember the name of the brand, but basically, where I got all this from, fuel stats, 8 to 20 kilowatts per 100K. Average acceleration, it's not Tesla acceleration, but it gives a run for most petrol cars. Regen, I've seen up to 44 as well. It's got vehicle to load, so I've got 7 kilowatts out of it out camping. Possibly if you use 3 phase.
What on earth did you need 7 kilowatts for while camping?
It was just testing loads, but
Trying to get a door for you.
these bushfires you've been talking about. It has the ability to do vehicle to vehicle, but none of us over here have sorted out the right cables yet, but we will test that soon. And vehicle to grid may be possible because it's grayed out on our screen, but apparently with a firmware update, if they let us in this region, we might be able to get vehicle to grid and with legislation, etc. Who knows? It doesn't have a tow rating in Australia, but someone over east is trying to get that organised at the moment. But in New Zealand, it's towing 2 ton pretty easily. They said it has no problems whatsoever. And interestingly enough, in New Zealand, we've found out that their regulations here need to be freight over 750 kilos. But in New Zealand, it's 2 tons before you need braking. So,
And they're hillier than us.
yes, and they're towing 2 ton unbraked trailers with loaded up, and they're saying it's going fine. Yeah. So this is how it came about that I got hold of one. So August last year, drove it home. I had an article up where the journalists spotted these in the car park in Sydney, near the airport, and went, "What the heck are they?" No one giving me any information, and the owners got in contact with them. So it was GM Cabs who imported this vehicles at the very beginning of 2020. Strangely enough, a couple of months later, COVID put a halt to pretty much everything. So they just sat around. So didn't do anything with it. I don't know how we can afford to sit around with about 40 or so vehicles in a year and a half. But a few people said, "Do you want to start selling them?" So they started selling them privately, but they were literally as new because I had to peel off all the plastic and everything like that. And nothing, no kilometers and yeah. So 37, I was pretty happy with that. My wife thought we were going to end up scammed with a Matchbox car at the end of it. It did turn up.
Fair.
Yeah. It was also when I put the deposit down, the bank froze the transaction and said, "Are you sure this isn't a scam?"
Flashback.
Yeah, almost. It is, and to be fair, it is the only car that I've ever purchased through Instagram. Had to sign for an account. There's a whole big story about how dodgy all that seems, but I got it, and my added extra stress because my mate was interested, and I said, "I'll wait till I get mine and you can see it if you want it." And the sales guy basically pressured him into, "Oh, they're going to disappear," so he bought it before mine arrived, and I thought, I've brought him into the scam as well. But we both got it, so it's like good. Yes. I have told a few people, but I got stranded on the first drive because they sent it over. They said it'll be sent over with a full charge, and sure enough, it rolled off the truck with 400 Ks on the clock. And I just needed to go into Midland from Bassendean, so it's like a 10K trip. I got there to get it licensed because I had to do all the licensing and everything. Went there in the morning to the Department of Transport, came back, needed to go back for the inspection in the afternoon, and it made 17 Ks before it stopped. So I think they charged it back in 2020 and left it. Anyway, after 2 or 3 charges, it's been good, and I'm getting close to 400 Ks. We're really happy, and it just ticked over 4,000 the other day.
Is there any left for sale?
So
Is there any cars left for sale?
I don't believe so, but I can make some more inquiries. They kept, it was very shady in terms of the sales guy. He kept going, "Oh, you've got to buy it, they'll all be gone." And then my mate got one, and then about a week or 2 later, my wife got contacted because we were trying to get hold of them early on and they weren't answering. She got called and went, "Do you want one? There's some available." And we're like, "You just said." Yeah, but
Car salesman, you know.
yeah.
Did it go into total mode when you lost out?
It did, and it said, charge quickly, you've got 10 Ks left, you've made about 150 meters. It doesn't do that now because I actually got it down to less than 5% the other day and it traveled on 0K range for about 4 kilometers before I very sweatily parked it up and got
So
charging again.
what did you do when you got stranded then? You have RSC to tow you away?
Oh, yeah, this could go on forever, but I called up the insurance roadside assist that I bought with it the week before and thought, this is a new car. I'll go, I don't normally have that, but I'll do it for this one. Called them up, they said, what's the rego? And I said, oh, I'm getting it this afternoon because I'm taking it to the thing. I don't show it unless it's vehicle. I'm going back to try. Could be a sea container, who cares? No, sorry. So, oh, this is recorded, isn't it? But despite the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, the plug-in that I've got as my second car has a tow rating of 1.5 ton. We managed to get it the 2.5 Ks home, and this thing weighs 2.4 tons. So, yes, we very carefully towed it home. So with an Outlander PHEV, got it charging on the home charger, and then could do the inspection the next day. This is just a snapshot of the inside. It's very tiny taxi and sort of
Leather interior?
I'd say it's leather, but yeah, it's at that price. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. The 3 little screens up the top are in the center, which is these 3 info things for your power and your speed, so it's a bit different having everything in the middle, but not that unusual for CVs. And the radio in the center was very basic radio aircon with a couple of big buttons and no other functions. So I gripped that out and put in an Android tablet. So I've got.
Did they obstruct you when you took it over the pitch? Did they have any questions because it's a new car?
Oh, well, it's private. Everything's private now. So it was a private mechanics company. They said the only thing is, I've got to get onto it. They said underneath it's got a little bit of corrosion from sitting out near the ocean for a couple of years. But no, they said, oh, looks good. Off you go, took for a drive. So I was pretty happy. Yeah. We'll take your money anyway.
They licensed the Prelude, so.
And this is the only 3 in WA. So mine at the end, my mates, he got it. And coincidentally, I found the other owner because I work at Fiona Stanley Hospital. And one day I came out and there's her car parked right next to mine.
That's so unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it's my man, like it's very comedy, but no. And so she left a note on the windscreen saying hello to you. So we got together and this is the Beth and Dean organization, free thing. So yeah, we had a little together. Yeah, thanks. And it's out charging there at the moment if anyone wants to have a look later, but yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Any questions? Any questions from Zoom land?
It's hobby land.
Go back to
Thanks very much.
If there's time, I got another presentation, it'll be a little bit quicker, but
Well, that's fine.
otherwise, I know I'm curious to hear about and this stuff as well. So.
yeah, okay. Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, now I think I can.
Bring it away. Bring it on.
And all right, okay, Sandra, I've made you a co-host. Would you like to share your screen?
Give me a sec.
Otherwise it'd be a black box.
No, I've got a copy of the presentation here as well, but while we're waiting,
Tell me when you can see it.
Sure. Process of getting a car over the pits is always an entertaining exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that, Sandra.
Awesome. And you can hear me correctly?
Yep.
Brilliant. Thanks for the opportunity. I thought I will take this opportunity to just give you a quick update on the project. Obviously, we see each other quite often, and I don't always have updates on the project, but a little bit has occurred while we were during Christmas leaves and so on. So I thought it would be a good opportunity. Obviously, it's nothing official. So if you have any question, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I will answer what I can. We have few milestones since last time we discussed. So as most of you know, we have awarded most of the tender contracts. So JetCharge is our provider for the hardware, and ChargeFox is our network, so the charge point operator, so the software. No surprise really there. Most of you will know ChargeFox as they are also operating the RSC chargers. Now we are talking, for a while we were talking about EV WA or whatever. We didn't really know what to call us. So here we go. We have a name finally confirmed. It's WA EV Network with a beautiful graphism. Chris, I can see you smiling. And the most exciting part that interests us the most is the fact that we have started construction. So at the end of November, early December, we started some civil works in Geraldton and Northampton. We are going through a massive learning curve there because we find some big rocks or this or that. Like we still need to align all the contractors, put the cons in. So there's still quite some work, but it's very exciting to enter in this phase. Any questions so far? Sure. So often people are asking me, they're like, well, you are working on this project for nearly 2 years now. There's still no chargers available for us to use. What's going on? What are you doing? And the thing is that it's a WA state government initiative, so it's a bigger scale, I guess, that if you just want to put one charger somewhere, and also because it's a state government initiative, we have to find some specific requirements. For example, when we choose suitable site, what is a suitable site? First of all, it needs to be on government land. Which is not that easy, and government land can be so tricky because sometimes you need 500 different approvals, which can take months and months and months waiting. You have no idea where it is. It can go through land gates or DPLH or public transport, or I can't even remember all of them because there's so many. So that's one of the requirements that can be quite lengthy in terms of time. There is also the fact that a suitable site will be a site that is good parking, but not prime parking, as we don't want to be iced all the time. However, we still need this site to be safe. So it needs to be close to lights, not too far from amenities, because we want people to be able to go for a coffee or toilets. So there's a lot of things to take into account, and each LGA we are dealing in the Swiss, we are dealing with 22 LGAs, and you can believe that, you know, Ravensthorpe and Banbury and Walpole won't have the same constraint, won't have the same budget, won't have the same understanding of EV either. So each time it's really building this relationship with the LGA as well, which can take some time as well. So once you've found a suitable site, then you need to submit a network application to Western Power. I'm sure Chris will explain later, but this as well can take a very long time. We have a look if we need to lodge a development application. We need to sign a license agreement with the LGA, which can be very lengthy as well if they go through lawyers and co. Once we have all that, then Western Power is working on the network augmentation design, which can take also a lot of time. And then once all this is done, we can finally start the civil works. So that's the site preparation. This is what we have done, for example, in Geraldton and Northampton so far. And then now we are at the phase 7 and 8, where we are waiting Western Power to power the site. So the box are in the ground, but for the moment it's just a box. So we are waiting to align their contractor and have the network augmentation done. And you need to have an inspection, blah, blah, blah. Like there's still a lot of boxes to tick. And then we can commissions charge, and that means that then we can use it. So hopefully this is where we're going to go for the 22 sites before Q1 next year. So more or less we have 11 months to do 44 charges.
Any questions?
So that gives you a bit of a snapshot without getting in much more details, but it's just to show you a bit the extent of the work that I'm talking about. So this is the four main administrating things that we need to do before we can commission a charger, and why it is that for the moment there is no chargers that are operational. It's because for each LGA, each time you need to tick so many boxes. So that gives you an overview on where we are at. It's a lot of green, so it's pretty good, but we still have a lot of work. Any comments or any
Sandra,
questions?
Sandra, is there any coordination with people that have three-phase power, residential or business in the metropolitan area or en route? Are you doing any coordination or any research with respect to that?
No, not at all. It is not in the scope of this project.
Right.
Yeah. Any other question or?
I'm just wondering, what charges do we have between Perth and Geraldton?
So at this stage, not as part of the WAV network, but at this stage, you will have a 50 kilowatt at Giant Bay at the Ampol service station, where you can stop. And Lanslyn and Giant Bay are on our WAV network, and we are hoping to start the civil works in March. So it will all come in. We have 11 months to do the 22 sites anyway. So like, you know, one way or the other, they're all going to happen. The rollout is going to happen. And hopefully like the first site takes a lot of time because it's a lot of learnings for us. And it's not a synergy initiative. As I say, like we are very depending on Western Power and very depending on contractors, the LGA, blah, blah, blah. Like there's a lot of things to align together. So to install the charger and so on, it can take 12 to 16 weeks, not because we need 12 or 16 weeks to do the civil works, but just because you need to make sure that you have all the contractors aligned, all the inspectors at the same time and this and that. So sometimes you will do one phase of this installation and then you have to wait for like a week or so before there is the next person that comes and that ticks the box. So that's why it can take a bit of time. So at this stage, we are just trying to do everything we can whenever we can. So there is no more strategic thinking of like, we open one corridor or we open because we have 11 months. So like it makes no sense to try to go for a corridor, even though the minister really wanted us to do a corridor in the way that he wanted at least 2 or 3 locations together, which was adding really to the complexity of this project as well, because having 2 or 3 LGA close to each other, ready at the same time, it's very tricky, very, very tricky. So we are quite happy to have Geraldton and Northampton together, and I will show you the next one, but a bit further, but the next corridor will be south because it will be Walpole, Manjimup, Albany and Williams. So we are still trying to do kind of corridors, but if there is the opportunity to go to a site, then we would go there.
Just a comment there from Roy, you've got 2 Northampton entries, is that?
Yeah, I know, sorry. I think that's my Excel spreadsheet. It's then 1 Northampton and 1 Northern. I think I didn't pay attention when I did the Excel. And they are at the same stage anyway, but yeah, one is Northam and one is Northampton, sorry.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
This one?
That one, yeah. My question is, number 4 and 5, you were saying that both took a long time.
Yes.
The sign an agreement and then network augmentation design.
Yes.
Do they work in series or can they work parallel with each other so that 4 and 5 has an outcome at the same time?
Yes, they can go at the same time because one is an agreement, so it's a license agreement, so more or less it's legal team between the LGA and Synergy, while the other one is completely depending on Western Power will.
Good stuff. So they don't wait for each other then.
That's right.
Very
Yeah.
good. At least that is something good.
Yeah, we try. And we try to explain Western Power in which order we want them to work. So then when we see that the DA is ticked and when the license is close to be signed and so on, we're asking them to work on the design of this, but they don't always follow the same order as what we give. So sometimes it could be misalignment. It's like, I guess it's Synergy and Western Power. It's a bit like the cats and dogs family. Sometimes they love each other, sometimes not that much.
Does Kalgoorlie fall under, there was one plan for Kalgoorlie originally, I didn't see it on that list.
Yes, Kalgoorlie is in, yeah, Kalgoorlie is on, yeah. We still haven't signed the license. We are still negotiating with the legal team, but it's going quite well, and they have started the design as well, yes.
Sandra, you mentioned 44 charges, and there are about 20 locations here on your chart. So it's about 2 charges each location.
That's right. So thanks you. It's a very good segue. Actually, I'm going to show you more or less what looks a site. So it's an example. Obviously, don't take it as a figure face, but that to give you an idea of what the site will look like. So there is several configuration depending on the location, but most of the location, all the location will have 2 chargers, all of them. So the 22 locations that are in the Swiss have 2 chargers each. Sometimes it will be 1 DC charger and 1 AC charger. Sometimes it will be 2 DC chargers. For the option of driving, as you can see on the left-hand side, on the left image, as you can see, that will be the most recurrent site. Most of the locations will look like this. You will have 1 DC charger of 150 kilowatt or 75 kilowatt, and 1 AC charger, which is a 7.6 kilowatt. The idea of having the charger, and you can see in front of this little man or woman, I'm not really sure, the green one that is, next to the fast charger. This bay is what we call a universal bay, so that's not a bay where we will park. And this is to allow as well to have people with disability have more space to open their doors and get out of their car. That was the idea of why we put the fast charger on a bay on this configuration. And the little pole that is facing this person is what we call the paymate, which will allow you to pay with a credit card.
Yep.
So on the right, you have the examples of 2 DCs. So that's, for example, what's happening in Geraldton or Albany. So that's 2 times 150 kilowatt. And in this case, because you have 2 DC chargers, then they are on the curb, and you have the paymate on the curb as well that is in between the 2 chargers. So that's the configuration. It's an example. Obviously, we will have a transformer, an LV kiosk, and a switchboard. However, they are not always just next to the chargers. Every location is different. It's just to give you an idea of what it is, what kind of hardware are going to be installed on site.
Sandra, the DC chargers, they're both 2 CCS2s?
That's right. So I will go into the details of the hardware just after. But yeah, you're right. So there are Kempower chargers. I can go there and I will come back there. So this is the hardware we are putting into place. So it's Kempower DC chargers most of them are 150 kilowatt, and in some places it's only 75 kilowatt. Yeah, there is 2 cable. Both of them will be CCS2. For the good reasons that CHAdeMO will be obsolete very soon, and we were trying to future-proof this WAEV network. And so obviously you can charge 2 cars at once. So if there is only 1 car, you will have the 150, but it will split into 2 if you have 2 cars charging at the same time. The slow charger or the AC charger, it's a ChargeMate from the Charge, and it's a 7.6 kilowatt, and you have to bring your own cable as per usual. And then on the right, this is the paying station that I was talking about previously. So it's what we call a paymate, and it's just something that allows you to pay with a credit card. So just to finish on what the site could look like, most of the LGA, we were trying where we could. We were trying to ask the LGA to give us a spot where we can have some drive-through opportunities. It's not always possible, as you have heard before. There's a lot of constraint to take into account to find the right site. But in some instance, we managed to find, for example, in Brookton, we will have a drive-through that will look like a bit like the one on the left, like a kind of line like that. And in this case, you will have the 3 pieces of hardware on one side. And on the right-hand side, that's the example of Coolgardie. We will create a car park and you will have the chargers in the middle and you will have a kind of square drive-through. Any question on what look like the site?
A little question just about the internet access at the sites with the pay wave.
Yes.
Some of the sites that I just did on my recent trip didn't have adequate internet. They were suitable for the chargers that I was using, but if they were pay wave or otherwise, they wouldn't have worked if people had to use their phones. Has that been looked at the sites as well?
That's exactly why we put a credit card. It's because in a lot of places, and it's even more true on Horizon Power Land, you won't have reception in a lot of places. So that's why you have this paymate, because the paymate is not using the reception. It's a different kind of com. And so you will be able to pay with your credit card.
Great, thank you.
This is the site maybe you have seen on social media. We put some pictures and some of very enthusiasts of EVs as well put some pictures. So that's what the Geraldton site is looking at the moment. So as I said previously, it is not operational as yet. However, this is 2 times 150 kilowatt camp power chargers that you can see here with the universal bay we were talking about in the middle with the yellow stripes. And you can see the paymate as well that is on the curb. And we decided on the bay painting, we decided to not go for branding like a Synergy, Horizon Power or WAV network branding, but to follow more the recommendation from Australian roads to try to be as universal and standard as possible. So it's a very simple bay painting. And then if the LGA wants to put some road signage, we are recommending them to have a look at the recommendation from Australian roads as well. So we talked about the hardware and how you will pay. So you will have 3 options to pay: your usual RFID card, or your app, ChargeFox app, or your credit card. And in the Swiss, I'm not talking for Horizon Power because it will be different. Obviously, they are much more remote places and so on. So I think their price will differ depending on where they are at. However, for the Swiss, because we are connected to the grid, this year it will be 60 cents per kilowatt for the DC charger and 35 cents per kilowatt for the AC charger. There was some question in social media regarding the tariff. Are we going to do a free trial or a free time? No. The answer is no, absolutely not. And the reason is very simple, is that we don't want to give people the wrong education from the get-go. It is not our intention to be out of the market. We don't want to take over Tesla chargers or RAC chargers. We want more chargers. We want more people able to charge their car in Western Australia. So the idea here and why it is 60 cents or 35 cents, it's because we want to be aligned with the market.
Is there any like Stripe fees for your credit card thing?
At the moment there is, it's 20 cents when you pay by card, but at the moment it will be absorbed by the companies.
That's there. Typically MasterCard or Visa will add that 1.2% or something to every transaction.
Yeah, I think it's 20 cents, but at the moment, yeah, they are going to absorb it and see how it can make it work, because they are not sure yet how it can work. So for the moment, it's just going to be absorbed in the business case.
The reason I asked that is because sometimes if the charger fails, you have every time you put a transaction through, you're going to be charged another Stripe fee, basically.
Yeah, no, at this stage, not that I'm aware. like we need to try and so on. But like from what we go through in Ajax, which is one of the
That's all right, the chargers won't fail, will they?
and well, that's the idea as well. Like the minister really wants, you know, to make sure that we can charge the car, and that's why as well you will always have a backup. There's always 2 chargers because you want to make sure there is a backup. If there is no other question, what do we do to engage with people? So the first main engagement, as I was talking previously, is this kind of relationships that we have developed for about 2 years now with the LGA. It's a continuing engagement here. We have separated the 22 LGA among 3 of us. And we are on the phone with each of them at least once per month. And when I say on the phone, it's spending 30 minutes to an hour to make sure that we are pushing, getting there, trying to help them to get some other funding if they need to develop a car park and things like that. So it's very much a win-win relationship that we have developed, and a trusting relationship. And the idea is really to help them going through, because the minister said, this is the map. You get a charger, but sometimes they don't have any funding to create this car park. So, like, you know, they were not all that happy at start because they were not sure what they were signing for, and they didn't really have the choice. So it was very important as well to provide some education on EV in general and so on, and to keep them in the loop, I guess, and just collaborating together. So that's still the main engagement. Then obviously local community and business engagement is very important, particularly before civil works are starting, to make sure that people are aware of it, even though most of the applications are going through council meeting and so on. So most of the people that are interested in what's happening in their town already know about it. However, we make sure that we go. So the picture that you can see here, it's in Walpole 2 weeks ago during one of their fortnight markets, where Harold from Tokwa get down with his EV to talk about EV and show and talk to people about it, and 2 people from Synergy to talk about this project and explaining how we are happy that Walpole is on board, and we're going to start the work very soon to make sure that the business knows what it means, what kind of impact, is there going to be any outage while we do the civil works, like, you know, just keeping them informed. Once again, the more engaged you are with the people and the less angry they are going to be about things. Obviously, there is also this engagement with AEVA, with Tokwa, the EV Council, but also being there at all the events just to talk about the project and answer any question. The idea is also to help all the organization or all the LGA, for example, to talk to each other and collaborate together. So we are linked with DPLH, WALGA, like you name it, anyone that is interested in EV. We are just trying to put people together so that they can answer any questions and yeah, developing more charger, installing more charger, even though it's not in the scope of this project. And because it's a government initiative, obviously, media and minister engagement. Any question or?
Yeah, there's 2 questions there on the chat box there, Sandra. One from Richard asking if there will be any idle fees applied to people charging, so sticking around without charging.
Yeah, so that's something that ChargeFox hasn't developed yet, as you all know. Neither push notification, but it's part of our contract. So maybe we won't have it now, but we are working onto it, and they have to provide this solution. So idle fee and push notification will be 2 of the features that we ask ChargeFox in the contract to develop for us. So yes, I don't know what it will look like. I don't know when, but it is part of the project. Yes.
Joseph just indicated it might look like a bat, but and then the next question there was from Roy. If Synergy could get out to the Meriden show on April 1st, that'd be great.
April 1st. Yeah, that would be great, because Meriden is definitely one of our LGA. It's not mine, but yeah, definitely one with we are engaging. So yeah, I will make sure that we get into contact with you to understand what it is and how we can support. Yeah. Noted.
Sandra,
Yes.
are you gifting them to the LGA straight away, or is that going to be a synergy owned for a while? What's the situation with that?
So the license agreement is very clear that we own the chargers and we are in charge, and we are like everything is under synergy responsibilities except the base, because the LGA provides the base. So like if there is painting on the bay or things like that, this is on the LGA. Everything else is our operations and maintenance, and the chargers, it's synergy. And the license agreement is going for 5 years that you can repeat 4 times.
Okay.
So it will be reviewed every 5 years. Obviously, during these 5 years, if at any point on time, if one of the party wants to do something else, they will have to get the agreement of the other one. And therefore it could be gifted, but if the LGA doesn't want it, then we will have to re-put the site like it was before we put the charger in.
Okay.
Excellent. And then Paul's just asked if is there any objection to showing that recording to the Denmark EV charging station stakeholders? I don't have a problem with that, Paul. It's going to be recorded. We'll try and put it up on YouTube actually.
Yeah, no, I have no issue. And if there is any question, I'm always happy to answer them where we can and when we can. There's still a lot of unknowns, so I won't lie. There is things that we don't know yet, but when we are able to answer the question, we are more than happy to.
Will ICE vehicles be towed?
What's next for us? Next start, as I was saying previously, so we are having a look at starting the civil works in Menjimup, Albany, Walpole, and Williams. As you have seen, Albany has created a whole new car park next to the old jail, and the car park from Albany has been finished in December. So we are very excited to open this as soon as possible. And in Albany, we will be co-locating with Tesla as well. So I don't know how soon Tesla will be ready to install their chargers, but it's going to be a really great car park because you will have a ICE car park and an EV car park with 2 different providers. So it's very exciting times ahead. And I'm sure Chris can share this presentation to whoever is interested to have it. And if you need more information on the project and so on, like you can always go on all the statements, media statement and things like that. So I just put a list there of the resources.
Thank you all.
To me.
Thank you so much for that, Sandra. Really great to see some solid progress on that. And that's really exciting, especially knowing that a fair bit of it will be ready in time for the expo in November.
I really hope so. If not, we will be in a lot of trouble, mate.
Excellent.
Thanks for the opportunity, though.
No problem. Thanks for that. Okay, well, I think we've probably gone on for long enough. Shall we adjourn it and go for a cup of tea and go and kick some tires?
Could I be really something that's quick 5 minutes?
Well, I'll give you 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Time.
Right.
Because it's very fitting with both these and girls.
Which one is it?
It's just continuation, just.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I just thought the slideshow. Because this is early days, but I kind of need to start this early. So this is the plan for my family. We want to try and see if we can do a lap of Australia, which is very fitting with both presentations coming today. Just quickly, this is the TREX expedition because it's the TREX family. I've got Tim, Renee, Ellie, and Ellie and Xavier. It's at Halloween last year. But we're hoping in 2024 to do a 6 to 9 month lap of Australia, and we thought rather than doing the standard brain nomadic type thing, we're trying to do it all electric. As ideally as many parts off grid and off road, somewhat off road as we can, all very dependent on vehicles, I must say. But we're partnering with Curtin Uni, which is looking pretty promising. There's some research opportunities to help make this happen. We've decided to go with the Walk and Shore pop-up camper, so it's luxurious enough that we're not going to kill ourselves staying in the little camper trailer, and trying to keep the height low for towing. This is the current setup, but I've got to convert some of the gas stuff to electric and fit out some solar panels. Biggest unknown is going to be suitability of what we can tow it with. Even though the EV E6 will do it, I don't think it's up to the job. So we want to see what we can get with reasonable off-road capability. Ideally, we want to do this as a presentation so that everyone who says, particularly Scott Morrison, you're going to lose your weekend and you can't go to your favorite camping spots. We're going to see what we can push, and it's a year away, so all these infrastructures coming through is certainly going to be a good help. But we thought, what can we push in terms of what we can see at the top end, nullable when it's not, not necessarily Tesla, how far we can get up Cape York and a few things like that. If possible. What's the chance of getting early imports of some of the things that look really capable, but we're going to get them. Geely Hyundai dual cabs are on the way maybe, and the Polestar S3 or Polestar 3 has recently said they're going to be available in this time. So that's a maybe. But we know there's going to be lots of planning ahead, calls to secure potential charging options in advance if it's not going to be one of the standard ones. And the potential of having to set up camp, charge somewhere else, and come back to it.
It says the biggest unknown, suitable tow vehicle. Are you not taking the BYD E6 then?
No.
Oh.
Although it will supposedly, if we get the rating tow it, it doesn't have a huge boot space, so we'll have to rely on everything to be in the camper, which will keep that low as well. But that's only got a 350-ish K range. Once you put a trailer on, if that gets under 200, I think that's going to be hard to.
Well, I hope you're successful, because a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I built my own car, the Deux Chevaux, and I was going to go around on Australia on solar alone, and I had to tow a trailer with about 15 square meters of solar panels.
Yes.
But the car was so unreliable that I gave it away. So I hope you can manage. Yes.
Yes. I've got that, and I think the camper considerations are fine. I think that's almost a no-brainer. We can make that self-sufficient. I've got some lithium ion from the house battery stuff that we did last year. A few of mine have failed, and I haven't found a replacement, so that's dead in the water. So at the moment, so I might be able to break that pack up. Definitely want to check with you about that, and you're for storing a camper maybe. But anyway, so that's camping type stuff. But maybe some of the more out there, is it worth putting batteries into the camper and having mini jerry can in the back? And there's also talk of a couple of companies putting power on the trailer and regen on the tow vehicle as well, which might help with range, but legally not possible at the moment. Who knows how that will happen. But yeah, I did do this calcs and worked out the roof area of our camper trailer setup will give us about 20 Ks a day. So it's got to be more to it than that. But yeah, very early stages, but comes up quickly. So does anyone who's got ideas and support one of those kind of things?
Give some serious consideration to the Cal-B batteries with the process of building motorbike at the moment.
Hang on a second, hang on.
And there's 9, we've got 9 Cal-Bs in the motorbike, and that'll give us a range of 350 to 450 kilometres.
Right.
So Cal-B is really the way at the moment. The bike has 36 BMW i3 cells in it. It's the 5th retrofit, and we're doing it for the police department because they've got no electric vehicle, and their target was 300 clicks. So I spoke to them at the EV show in September of last year, and they said, bring it along and show us what you've got. So we're almost there. We're almost completed. My bike was used as a prototype. They've done one in Margaret River. Mine's still waiting to be done, and it was the first one because Matt Lacey, who you may be aware of, has been working with us closely on each of the retrofits. And he's moving house, so I helped him move house to get back onto my bike. So we get
another person to get in touch with is Ray Wills. grey wheels from solar farms, futurist. I'll put you in touch with him. He's keen to develop a tow trailer project as well.
Okay, right. Right, so I thought it was very fitting, but yeah, would love to check with anyone who's done similar sort of things and yeah.
Well, she went back and forth in about 2 weeks, and you take 9 months.
Well, that's
Not
my
the
thought.
same thing.
This, I know it's got extra challenges, but if we've got to sit in a camper trailer for a couple of days, that's camping. So.
Fantastic, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to Tim and Sandra and sorry, I forgot Sarah for your presentations. And let's break for a cup of tea. So thanks everyone. Thanks everyone. And there's no further questions. For the night. So
See you guys.
see you.
Yeah.
See you later.